for anyone that wants to learn how to paint or thinks they're not a good painter and they make it about painting, you're looking in the wrong direction, because the number one skill I'd have at being good at painting is the ability to pay attention. So your skill is, I'm going to get good at paying attention.
You said wet pallets offer zero control.
It gives you more refinement of dilution because you're not picking it up like a sponge.
So this sounds like zero control to me. There's no diffusion. There's no convection of the paint around this paper.
Hello everyone and welcome to Paint Perspective, episode 108, sponsored by Everything Airbrush. For all of your airbrush supplies and needs, check the link in the description down below. We have this week another wonderful guest episode, none other than Tommie Soule.
Hi.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. Thank
Cheers
you for
for
coming
having
down.
me.
Good to have you,
Handshake.
man.
Handshake without compromising this business, fist distance away.
Good. It's really good to have you on, mate. Honestly,
Thank you.
It's been a long time coming. Obviously, we had Dave on. I can't remember how many episodes ago it was now.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long.
A few weeks ago. Yeah.
And
One episode ago, to my knowledge.
No, it was about 4 or 5
Have I
weeks
missed
ago now.
a few?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. How many do you do a week?
We do one a week.
Really? Right. I did not know that. So I watched the Dave one, and then my algorithm has only shown me one more since then.
Oh, you need to subscribe, Tommy. You need to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified when we upload a new episode.
I will if you will.
well, like we've been wanting to get you on for a while, and Dave said, "Oh look, you've got to get Tommy on as well." Obviously, that you got your fantastic book, which we'll go into more detail about as well. And but I think for anyone that doesn't know who you are and what you've done and
Yep.
painting, tell us a bit about yourself.
That's a long story though, isn't it? Really? And you've
We've got
had
time.
We've got a podcast. It's fine.
Yeah. Do you know that is true.
The listeners are just sitting down for a painting session. They need the time.
Do you know what? Right, I was referred to by. Do you know, like you've got Spiky Bits and all those guys. There's a website page for those. And he interviewed me quickly at Golden Demon when it was in Manchester, and he referred to me as the industry guy because I kind of not well known enough in the industry to be some kind of. So, like, let me give an example. So some people make the assumption that I've been in heavy metal paint. I've never been in heavy metal paint. I've never been in White Dwarf as there's Tommie Soule. I've never done any of that, but somehow I've got a reputation.
Did you used to work at? Did you work for workshop in the past?
Retail.
Retail. Okay. All
See
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So somehow, for whatever reasons, I've created I mean, not deliberately, but
No, it's fine.
I've gotten known, and I think some of that mainly was once I'd left Games Workshop because of Golden Painting Studios, which was an experience in its own right. I had so many ups and downs, but yeah, since 2010, I've been freelance. At the time before Siege was around, I bent your ear with this already, haven't I? But we ran Golden Painting Studios. It was the biggest painting studio in the world at that point. Painters of all abilities. So basically, we paint the full range from as low standard as it gets and as high standard as it gets. And just for clarity, low standard does not mean. That was one of the things I really cared about, and we ended up doing box art for
Mantic.
everyone.
Yeah.
In fact, we did almost all of Kings of War, all of Dreadballs Season 1, Warpath. We did Drop Zone Commander, Summer Sedition Wars with Studio Mavet. What else? Some Malifaux, blah 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 blah. Yeah, there was quite a lot, as well as private
Stuff.
Private stuff. Yeah. Good word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was mad. You know, we had this. You never got to see the studio.
I didn't.
itself.
No.
So it was an old like Edwardian
mill, wasn't it?
Edwardian mill, and we had the largest floor on there, and it was a beautiful place. We made all the desks out of MDF.
Yeah.
And we just had all the painters all in that one place, and it was just a hub of activity. Yeah.
I remember it. Yeah.
So we ran our courses from there. In fact, initially we ran courses in Maelstrom Games in Mansfield. So, and to my knowledge, people say I was the first to start running courses as well. I'm I don't know.
I'm not sure. I don't know what year it would have been. I mean, I know that
it was
used to
2010.
Yeah,
I suppose a lot of that is undocumented as well.
It's
Like,
really, yeah. I mean,
how do you research that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think my adverts are still on the Facebook page, so
Yeah.
at least mine are there to be dated.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know what did. There used to be the Heavy Metal Masterclass ones at Games Workshop. I don't know if they were that time. I don't know if they were after that or 2010 or I don't know. I can't remember the year that they used to be.
It is an interesting thing. So when I worked at Games Workshop before they started running the Heavy Metal Masterclasses, Robin Dews asked me to run painting classes at Warhammer World, and there were the times when George Delapina and David Rodriguez Garcia were working in Warhammer World as demo painters and things like that. You know, so it was at the beginning of it all.
Yeah, well, that's a long time. I tell you what, when you like, I mean, obviously, Siege started in 2013 to 2014. So, like, I mean, the industry before that is, like you said, because I mean, YouTube was around before. When did YouTube start?
2005.
2005. So it'd only been around 5 or so years, but at that point, and then it wasn't like flooded with the amount of stuff that is out there now. So you are quite right. It's kind of like I don't want to say the dark ages, but it's kind of like the dark ages in the sense of like there's not really that much documentation from that era. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. If there is anything, it'll probably all be on Cool Mini or not in the forums, if that's still a thing that exists.
I think so. Yeah.
But I like forums because it's kind of like filing cabinets.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Everything is there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not lost in a stream of
feed.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, everything is catalogued, everything is searchable, and everything is within its own little topic for whatever it is. So
I always find that you're having like a problem with your car and you find some forum post from 2007 that's really tackled it.
Yeah. And there's 10 people all on subject, all giving their 2 cents.
It's like the very early iteration of Discord.
Yeah. To be honest, I think forums made my reputation, you know.
How's that?
I think if it wasn't for Cool Mini or not, I don't think I'd have got the attention enough as a painter to go freelance. And I definitely think I wouldn't have been asked to judge at Salute if I wasn't online doing whatever it was I did. Because I'd say that the point where I became a bit more well-known was when I painted the Sanguinary Guard model. Other than that, I was just a guy, you know, and then when I painted that, people paid attention.
I think that was one of the models that you painted. I mean, for my own personal take on it, that was one of the models that I think you're really known for, is that Sanguinary Guard, non-metallic Sanguinary Guard model. Like it's like it's like prolific for you. It's like it's a model that like people like recognize and remember.
Yeah, I mean, for those that are around at the time, I don't show it off that much more anymore. But because it's old and busted, I don't really know how good it is. Like I look at it now and I see
you should do a new one, Tommie.
Well, that's kind of how I work, and I like to do like little updated versions.
You should do
past things.
That'd be great.
And the Flower Night is the one people talk to me about.
I know. Yeah.
But again, it depends how old you are as a hobbyist, doesn't it? Really, whether you know.
Yeah.
What you know.
Some of us aren't veterans of that era, are we, George?
No.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a veteran of all eras. That's the mad bit.
It's good. It's good to have that experience, you know, like, and to be in the industry for as long as you have been. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I started when I was 18 working for Games Workshop.
Yeah.
You know.
Was you painting miniatures before that?
Yeah. I've been doing it since the 80s. You know what I mean? That guy.
How did you get into that then?
All right. So there's kind of 2 stories. I don't know which one is valid, so I'll let everyone else decide. As a little kid, probably about 8 or 9, we were in Plymouth and we walked past this shop. We had a look in the shop and I just saw these little packets. Now I know they're called blister packs, filled with tiny metal men, which were squat ancestors at the time. And to me, they were just something to play with. So did it start there? I don't know. You know, and glued the plastic arms on with the las guns and what have you. And did what I did with him. But then later on, back up in Manchester, my mum's taking me up Brown Street, which is just off Market Street for those that know. And we walked past, I didn't know it was a Games Workshop. But again, you're a kid, aren't you? You see models, saw the models. I remember this Eldar Titan painted by a guy called Ash. I don't know the guy. I've never met the guy. I'd love to meet the guy. And the only reason I know he's called Ash is because he'd signed the plinth. The model was on. He'd done it in red metallic paint. So yeah, this Phantom Titan just absolutely captivated me. Weirdly, there's one just over there.
It's quite a large miniature.
Quite a big model, yeah.
Yeah, hand delivered because I didn't want to trust.
No, it's quite a gangly fellow.
Well, yeah, but you think about whatever connections you've got on the feet of that, all that leverage from the top just on 2 pins into what? 12 mil worth of MDF?
Yeah.
No.
Luckily, Paul in our packing department is an expert at this.
Is a prolific packer, if that's a term. So yeah, there you go. Yeah, so prolific he is. Yeah. No, I think that like thinking back now, like that's a really good valid point that you said actually. So was that second time when you saw the Phantom Titan? Was that when you've like got more into it in the sense of painting? Or
well, that was when I realised there was more to all this than just some figures.
Yeah, totally. I synergised with that. I mean, I had like my granddad got me like army, like the plastic green and brown army men as a kid. And I used to play with those like in the dirt, like wars and all that kind of stuff. And then that's when I got into FX afterwards. So it's very similar. But I think like any exposure you've got to it still contributes to the interest.
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say the plastic figures and Airfix. My dad used to have boxes of World War II and cowboys and Indian plastic figures. Yeah, from when he was a kid. And he also had train sets. So the first 8 foot by 4 foot piece of plywood I got, because 8 foot by 4 foot was the standard size of game boards back then. If anybody's
gradually got smaller,
madness. Yeah. But we had an 8 foot by 4 foot sheet of 12 mil ply to nail a train set to.
Yeah.
So that actually became the first game board. All this is going to knit together in a minute. I am foreseeing. So back to walking past the Games Workshop with Mum on Brown Street in Manchester, just off Market Street, for those that know it. Yeah, so we see this. I'm like pulling it with Mum going, I want to look in there. Obviously, Mum doesn't want to know toy, so but she allowed. So in we went. And I think we got intro gamed in there. The manager there was called Carl. That store is a special place to me for many reasons. And hopefully we'll get into that a little bit, because I kind of like telling this story. And it's integral, I think, to the book. And a lot of my values that I have now is the thing that what happened in that story, essentially. So we go in, we have an intro game. I can't remember what it was. I do remember playing a 40k intro game in there at one point, but I ended up I just kept going back. I became fixated on Epic. Particularly the Eldar, those were the first games we ended up playing on this 8x4 board with my brother.
That's a lot of models on an 8x4 board when you play an Epic.
Oh, dude. Well, I mean, I don't think we were a loaded family in any way. I mean, no, we weren't. That's as simple as that. But somehow, I had what I needed. I had a unit of 3 Prism cannons. I had a unit of 3 Warp Hunters. I had 2 Eldar Titans. I had what I needed to do a game on an 8 foot by 4 foot board.
I also think when you're a kid, you're satisfied with less. Like that is enough. Do you know what I mean? Like now there's a big thing with like more, especially in this hobby. Everyone loves boarding new models and stuff. But...
Yeah. Do you know what, right? I've still got a lot of the old stuff that I had when I was a kid. And some of it's been chucked away by my mum, blah, blah, blah. But I still think there was a pile of stuff building, but I painted it.
Yeah.
Early on, the value of painting was apparent and valuable to me. I got excited by it, and a lot of the fundamental things that make up a painter I was able to learn earlier on, or were obvious to me early on, and that's key. So for anyone that wants to learn how to paint or thinks they're not a good painter and they make it about painting, then you're looking in the wrong direction, because the number one skill I'd have at being good at painting is the ability to pay attention. And you cultivate your ability to pay attention, then you'll get better at painting. But if you're looking at painting without looking at yourself, then you're done. So I remember in school I was painting a Tamiya monster truck. They did small versions, You know, so you had the large radio control versions, and then did small that just put 2 AA batteries in and go in a straight line version. So I was painting, it was a lunchbox, for those that know what a lunchbox is. It's a Dodge van, basically, right? So I'm about to paint this Tamiya enamel chrome paint on the headlights of this Tamiya kit. My teacher comes in and he says, oh, what you need to do is you need to make a point on the brush by pull back, lift and twist, which is my own jargon now, but that's essentially what he said. And I kind of looked at him as if to say, well, yeah, I know it's obvious. You know, and another example of that, of things kind of being obvious, is the first kit, the first full unit I ever got was a present off my older brother. I had the thing for the Wood Elves at the time, and I'm painting the eyes and dotting the pupils as a, you know, maybe I was 12, maybe I was 13. I can't exactly remember, but it was old Fantasy Regiment. It was the kit.
And they weren't big faces back then.
No, they weren't big faces. But the point is when we see people struggling to paint eyes, for example, or people ask me for a lesson or advice on how to paint eyes, I start asking them questions. And the questions are very obvious questions. So earlier on, those questions were obvious to me. So in other words, I knew how to pay attention and ask questions to gain more information about what it is, because no one was teaching me, you know, and this is really important to develop. If you're not asking why the bad result has happened and how can I solve the bad result, or why did the good result happen and how can I keep repeating it, then you're probably not going to get better. And if you just think, oh, it's not working for me, well, it doesn't choose to work for you or not. We as painters do all that ourselves.
I agree totally. I think something that is really evident is that a lot of painters focus on what they are painting, but they're not conscious of what they're doing as they are painting.
Yeah. And some people are really great unconscious painters. I've had to be both, because I teach a lot and people ask in-depth questions on how, which is how I've learned to really break everything down. But the point is it was obvious when painting these eyes, it was obvious I needed a small point on my brush. It was obvious the paint needed to stay wet between picking it up and putting it on the model. It was obvious that I needed to have a small amount of pressure, not a large amount of pressure. Do you know what I mean? And if take people through these questions, do you want a big brush or a small brush to do that? Oh, small brush. Do you want a lot of paint so it forms a big blob on the end of your brush to do that? Or do you want a little bit of paint so it forms a nice accurate point? Oh, nice accurate point. And there's no one I'll take through that series of questions for painting eyes that gets those questions wrong. So the question is why are you getting it wrong if you actually know all the answers when I ask you to pay attention?
Do you reckon it's a bit of trepidation of doing it because of what it is?
So this is the thing. If you acknowledge your trepidation, then we can start dealing with that. Yeah. So if you acknowledge your trepidation and run away from it, we're not gonna deal with that.
What if I told you you can easily take your miniature bases to the next level? Well, now you can with the new basing products from Siege Scenics. Siege Scenics is dedicated to helping you create immersive and realistic environments for your miniatures that feel alive and dynamic, whether you're setting the stage for an epic tabletop battle or telling a rich, unfolding story with your competition display. From the warm hues of autumn to the crisp frost of winter, Siege Scenics has you covered with expertly crafted products that capture the ever-changing beauty of nature and bring it straight to your miniatures. To see the full collection and place your order now, head to siegescenics.co.uk or check the link in this episode's description. Because on that as well, we hear from a lot of people, especially beginners, they're like, I don't want to ruin, there's this fear. I don't want to ruin the model.
Ruin it.
And I think a lot of that is possibly bound up in what we were speaking about, I mentioned earlier, is like people spend a lot of money on this stuff. And I've definitely, interestingly actually, I've spoken to people who, but it's very apparent that they have a lot of money expendable to buy this stuff with. And I've seen the same fear in them that I have in people that don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to me because I always thought maybe it was tied up in these models are really expensive. I can't afford a lot of them, so I'm scared to ruin it. But I've seen from both ends of the spectrum, like, you know, there are people that struggle to afford the models but don't have that fear. There are people that can very easily afford the models that still have that fear, which I find very interesting.
The reason I think that is it maybe it isn't so much the monetary cost, it's the fact of what the model represents and their attachment to it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the fact that it's like that it's X amount of pounds or whatever for the model. It's the fact that it's this model that they've wanted to paint or they have an emotional attachment to it. And actually the money, I don't want to use the word irrelevant to them in their situation. Potentially it is irrelevant, and it's more a case of the model. I really love the model and I don't want to ruin it, if that makes sense.
I guess they've invested time in assembling it as well. So they've kind of gotten it to a certain point. But
so check this out. If I said their love of getting the results thereafter is more important to them than the love of the act of painting, that would sum it up.
Okay, yeah, that's a valid.
Yeah.
That's really good.
If you loved painting more than the results you just paint, you'd paint more. You'd paint more of the time and have more fun, and you probably just get better at it. If you were scared of painting because you weren't going to get the results you wanted, you'd probably paint less of the time, under anxiety, not be motivated to do it. You're probably not going to get better. You're probably going to say it doesn't work for me, and you're probably going to say painting's not for me. It's pretty much that.
How do you overcome that?
So start. Well, I'm here laughing and giggling away, saying, ruin it. So already we're having a laugh.
Yeah.
Go and ruin it, like.
You don't know if you don't try, though. That's the thing, isn't it?
Well, like, so there's a little section in my book where I talk about a baby learning to walk. Right. And a baby learning to walk isn't consciously trying to walk. It's just trying to walk. It's just naturally going through its process, isn't it? And it doesn't think, oh, it's not for me, this.
I'll just crawl. Do
you see what I mean? Right? Because that language and that understanding of judgment isn't there in the baby. It's just doing, because around the baby in the environment, this is what we do. So this is we just keep going.
Yeah.
We just keep going innocently, and we do it because we're just doing it. So you wouldn't say to a baby if it fell over, you're walking, aren't you? You wouldn't, though. So while your baby skill is learning to walk, you let it, you encourage it, don't you?
Yep.
Yeah. You don't go, oh, baby's painting skill. So that, aren't you? Yeah. Oh, so disappointed in it.
Yeah.
So disappointed in it.
Yeah, no, I get that.
What? See what I mean?
Yeah.
So all you have is love. Yeah. All you have is love. Now, I've had to practically apply this to myself, because, this hobby as a profession has been an up and down journey for me. Mm-hmm. And there's times I just bin it off, because there's the experiences in it that were just not nice, hurt, blah, blah, blah. But inherently, this hobby is a part of me, since I was young. So what I had to do is I had to relearn. I had to teach myself to love the hobby again, which is why I'm sat here in this green jumper with that book behind me, looking at you guys. In fact, when you were at my house, I spoke to you in depth about it, and I spent that time with that introspection, which goes back to how do we get good at painting? Well, the same way I had to get good at loving the hobby again.
I think the whole way that you've gone through that and then come out the other side and done all the things you've done with, like, some of the models you painted, like your Ragnar model, which obviously won you a demon and stuff, and and then your book and all this stuff like that is, in films where you see like the protagonist or the character in the beginning, and they're all a certain way, and then they go through this traumatic thing, or they go through something, and then you come out the other side and you're like even better than you were before. Does that make sense? And I think it's very much like that archetypal character story that you see.
The hero's journey.
Yeah, it's honestly, we had some really good chats when we hung out and stuff.
I loved it.
And, yeah, it was great.
I loved it.
And see all the stuff you've done since has been amazing, like absolutely amazing.
Do you know what, right? When Dave asked me to write the book, I didn't think I was in any way relevant. I was like, why are you asking? I've not painted in ages and blah, blah, blah. And I felt very underground, So it's nice to hear that maybe I wasn't, and on the subject of that hero's journey, I experienced so much in this hobby, good and bad. Good things that I did, bad things that I did, good things that happened to me, bad things that happened to me, blah, blah. And those all chalk up as lessons, very human lessons, very professional lessons, very artistic lessons, whatever it is. And all I care about now really is passing them lessons on. I feel like that is literally all I've got left, and here we are.
You were speaking about like falling out of love with the hobby and stuff and going through some challenging times. That's something that I've experienced. I'm sure you have as well, James, and I'm sure the listeners have.
Yeah.
How can I ask maybe what caused that and how you got back on the other side of it?
Absolutely. So some of it is when you work for a big company, there are some not nice people there and there's some really good people there. And scars leave scars. So bad people doing bad things or professionals doing professional things that are not favorable to me or anyone else, they hurt and they make a lasting impression on a person, don't they? So we have to overcome those things. Then I, as a professional myself, and you'll understand, being a business owner, you have to make decisions yourself. So how do you overcome it? Well, you have to chalk them up as lessons. Now, for a long time, I chalked them up as failures. While being self-employed and in fact, since 2019, I was diagnosed with suffering from Crohn's disease, which is not something I deal with now. That I've got through that. So while trying to be a professional, whether it be for Games Workshop, whether it be as a freelance painter, whether it be just as a human being, actually, when I think about it, it was insane agony. Like anyone that's got Crohn's disease will know, like it's literally the worst stomachache you've ever had. And the word stomachache doesn't even kind of
do it justice.
Yeah, it doesn't do it. Well, literally, your bowel is digesting itself. So it all came to a head for me in 2017 when my bowel rotted into my bladder. I'm gonna get graphic now, I know you guys said cut whatever, but I don't care. I'm gonna say what I have to say and tell my story.
Yeah,
you just get everything out of me. So my bowel rotted into my bladder, and I basically picked my own farts, plus things more solid than that. So here we are to the world, and it resulted in major surgery. So with that comes a lot of fear, a lot of introspection, a lot of extrospection as well, looking out at the world and blaming and shouting and crying. And, it was as bad as it was going to get. The next step was be dead, essentially. Right. So how do you come back from what you perceived was a lot of professional trauma? Maybe it wasn't, maybe they were just lessons. How do you come back from wanting to engage in an act that had a lot of pain and suffering, mentally and physically, attached to it, and the perception that a lot of people didn't like you because of a lot of those events, whether they did or didn't, so I'm in a real dark, horrible hole, and wow, this is deep, dark, and dirty, innit? I mean, I kind of don't know what more to say than that without going into, I think, pointless details. But it was horrible, and I think I have, whether I've paid my dues or not, I don't know, and whether other people think I've paid my dues or not. I'm focusing a lot on the bad things I've done, which sounds like therapy. This, but this is the thing. I've come out on the other side. I don't care what people think about my standard of painting. Like, so at the moment, for example, I'm happy to get a load of skeletons, which is what I'm doing at the moment, base coat them, dry brush the shit out of them, wash the shit out of them. They're done. They're fantastic. I'm also going to paint whatever model I want at whatever level I want. And there's the little voice in the back of my head, which it will be with everyone, going, the world will think the painting of this is because you don't compare with Richard Gray, or you're not as good as David Soper at stippling, or you don't quite use colour theory like.
But then your thing is, really, the only person you should compete with is yourself.
Well, no, it's not a competition. That's
no,
the
but
thing.
what I mean is that when you compare to other people, it's like the whole classic thing of looking on Instagram and seeing other people's work and then like going, oh, why is it's the classic. I always joke about it. It's like the Homer Simpson barbecue moment, like really, if you want to have some skeletons that are dry brush and painted for slinging around the table or whatever the case may be, there's nothing wrong with that.
Humans are a funny thing though, because I really synergize with what you're saying, because I, for the longest time, had a real problem with insecurity and ego and being somewhat public about what I do, both professionally and personally.
Yeah, man. I
didn't want to put stuff online that I didn't think other people would think was amazing.
It's a place to be, in it.
It is.
And it's something I would say to let go of, because I'm loving the hobby now.
Well, it's the same as what I say about competitions. I mean, when we talk about it, like, who are you painting for when you enter a competition? You're painting, like, what, you're painting for the judges? What, just so you're painting for X amount of opinions that are going to ratify your hard work? Like, I ultimately, like, paint the best thing you physically can that you are, like, super proud of, which is what I always say. Like, don't even aim for anything. Like, the whole purpose is, it's a hurdle. It's an objective to paint something so that it is ready to submit for the competition.
Yeah.
Once it's done, it's released to the world and it's in the competition. You've done your job. Like, if you get something for it, like, incredible. Like, if you don't, it's like the victory is the silver lining. The real win is the thing you've painted. And I think a lot of people get confused between those two things.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Painted versus painting. Painting is what we meant to love doing. Painted is the end result. Do you know what I mean? So you're not going to get good painted if you're not painting, But just to come back to the comparison thing, comparison is good if you're using that tool of comparison for good. For example, if you use comparison to flagellate yourself, this guy is good and I am shit. This is kicking the little kid again. Yeah. If you use comparison to adjust yourself towards the objective, now you're using comparison for a tool for good. For example, this line is 1.5 inches long, 1 mil wide, gets wider in the middle. Now, John Blanche is way better at painting than me, and I could just say, oh, I can't paint that line. That line's amazing. Or I could say, right, let's figure out how to do a line 1.5 inches long. It's got a light blue first highlight and it's got a white second highlight. Right, okay, I'm going to do that line. All right, mine's a bit wide at the top. So I'm comparing.
Yeah.
But I'm comparing quantitatively instead of emotionally and judgmentally.
Yeah.
Judgmentally?
Yeah.
Judgmentally. Right?
Yeah.
Cut. No, don't. Right.
Yeah.
But do you see what I mean?
No, I do.
So
Totally.
comparison is the perfect tool, but are you using it to stab yourself in the head?
It's like reference, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I used to do that early on because I love the box art painting style. And I used to literally, there was a turning point where I said, I want to paint like that. Let's actually like start doing this. Like today's the day. And what I done was I went on the Warhammer website. I found the highest resolution photo I could within their little carousel thing. And I literally just zoomed all the way in at every single part. And I went, what have they done to paint that part like that? I'm just going to do that.
Let me shake your hand. So this is the result. This process here is the result. That this is the bit that excites me in people. Yeah. How old are you, by the way?
25.
25. See, this is wonderful. In this digital age, what you've just described there is an absolute analog way of learning. And that's the point. In other words, let's go back to what I said earlier on. You paid attention. So your skill is, I'm going to get good at paying attention. And I'll get good at painting because of that. I've just paid attention to this. And because of that, this will be etched in my memory now. I have this, I kind of don't forget brushstroke. I've never written a colour scheme down. I've never written a method down. I've never written anything down, but I'm happy just to, I'll remember it.
Yeah.
I'll remember it. And if I don't remember it, I'll get it a different way.
It frustrates me though, because like we do these tutorial videos and I've been on the other side of this and it's like people say, oh, I can't do that because I haven't got the brush control. But I'm like, but if you just do what's in the video, like step by step, like you might not get it on the first try. It might take a bit of practice, but like all the information is there. Like it's all in it. If you want to get literally the exact same thing. You've just watched a video of me painting all of it and me telling you every single step of how to do it.
Yeah.
It might take a bit of practice, but if you, like you said, pay attention.
Like in insane detail. I'm going to reach behind me. I knew that all this would come in handy.
Here we go.
Yeah, but the point is let's just take holding a brush. Here's how I hold my brush. I don't know if anyone can see it. Am I on camera?
Yeah. You're good.
Check me out. Oh, look weird on camera. Right, but here's how I hold my brush. How do you hold your brush?
I hold my brush like this.
There's not much difference between the way I hold my brush, the way you hold your brush. How do you hold your brush?
Exactly the brush. Like that.
Oh, so you're a little bit more open.
Yeah, a little bit.
So do you notice that already? I've clocked a detail difference. We're a bit more like this. Me and you, James, a little bit more.
You mean the over it, my finger?
Oh, check it out. So you see, you've got this more open. This changes your range of motion.
Yeah.
You get a greater range of motion, but you kind of get less control, right? But when you tighter in like this, you'll get nice, thank you. You'll get a firmer control, but less range of motion. Yeah. Well, how do I know that? Well, because I pay attention to my students and I ask the question. So if somebody, say, doesn't have the brush control you have, well, are they holding the brush there?
Yeah.
Are they holding the brush?
I remember doing that right
there?
at the start of learning to paint. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So you paid attention, you made the adjustment.
It's like you were saying earlier with the Phantom Titans. It's just a leverage thing. If you're really, really far away, a microscopic movement is like 1.5 inches on the model.
Correct.
So but if you're really, really up close on the ferrule and right at the tip of the brush, you can make fairly large movements.
Exactly.
With your hand.
So you have amplitude with distance, essentially. So if I was trying to poke you in the eye with a long stick, now I'd find that really difficult. But if I walk right up to you, go, bullseye every time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there's just certain logical and physical facts that you just need to pay attention to. How you hold the brush, how you load the brush, how you blah, blah, all in the book, by the way. Right? But the point is comparison is a wonderful thing. Please do it, but use it wisely.
Yeah, if you're like you say, if you're using it to flagellate yourself and have a go at yourself and go, why is mine not like that, or why can't I do that? I think you're extrapolating the wrong information from what you're looking at, I think.
Yeah, and gaining awareness that you're doing that to yourself and therefore doing it to your own hobby and this childlike thing within you that's trying to just enjoy painting toy soldiers, then you're not bringing up this little precious piece of art that is yourself and your life, And they're big lessons for a human to learn, because they're not about painting. They're about being a human and being a valid human and setting a good example to other humans, young and old and blah, 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 blah. So that all that stuff counts way more than how well you can blend.
Big news, some huge updates have arrived to the Siege Studios Patreon to give you brand new perks and includes even more bonus content. Our refreshed tiers include extended ad-free episodes of this podcast, including our new post show, extended masterclass video tutorials with bonus tips and techniques, invitations to hobby hangouts with us, exclusive Discord channels, and of course, instant access to hundreds of easy-to-follow, step-by-step PDF tutorials updated every single month. And you can even get dedicated video feedback of your miniatures with our critique clinic, so you'll always know what skills you need to improve next. So what are you waiting for? Take the next leap in miniature painting and improve your skills for the same price as just a few pots of paint. Head to patreon.com/Siege Studios to learn more.
I don't know anyone else in the industry that talks about painting the way that you do. And I think, and I really mean that, like with regards to pressure management, like on the brush, and how pressure dictates the use of the brush, and like things like friction, like there's stuff that.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think that's like the way you speak is more about the operation of the tool rather than the result.
That's exactly.
I hear other painters speaking about stuff and they're like, here's how to get this blend. Here's what. Here's the technique and what it is. But you're more like, what are the inputs you need to make?
Well, the point is if you understand how the machine works, the machine will work.
Yeah.
If you just want the machine to work and you go point the machine at the job and go work, probably not going to get you the most out of it, But while the act of painting is just having paint put on things, That's painting. Again, let's go back to kids. You put a load of 3-year-olds in a room with paper and paint and watching them throw paint at paper. Ask somebody what them kids are doing. They'll say those kids are painting.
Yeah.
Then everyone can paint.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Painting is just a thing that involves paint on things.
I think the overlaying thing is also the subjectivity of it. It's like, you know, you go touching back to what you said about like the skeletons that are dry brushed, you know, you with the ability you've got or the painting experience you've got, you will dry brush the skeletons, but your skeletons will, because of the experience and because of the amount of the way you use the brush, they will, perception wise to somebody else, they will look higher in quality
without
than maybe what someone just grabs a brush and just dry brushes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So perception's a huge thing when it comes to it as well. And I think that is something that blurs the lines a lot for people when it comes to miniature painting. I think that like there's this whole thing about what is tabletop. Like you might paint something like, you know, that is your tabletop.
Yeah.
There's a lot of perspective
and somebody else will look at it and go, wow, that's way higher than table. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's the perception of it, because at the end of the day, art is a massive thing, and everyone's at a different point within it. You know, like George, we obviously both like the heavy metal or box art style. I know you paint that
I love it,
as well. You absolutely love it, you know. And that's a language of painting. That's a language of execution, and the perception of that is one thing. Whereas there are people out there that maybe don't like it and that don't like that approach or that way, and to them, it's not what painting miniatures should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. But see, the thing is, the mechanics of all those different styles, whether it be heavy metal style, whether it be something a bit more painterly or expressive, the mechanics are still all the same, and that's the bit to understand. And the reason, the reason I would do my lowest standard and appear higher standard to somebody else doing exactly the same method is because there's no such thing as a beginner or advanced techniques. So like dry brushing is the main offender, not the main offender, the main victim.
Stigmatized, yeah.
In that, dry brushing is a low standard technique. It's used for beginners.
Look at what Byron does with it.
But dude, do you know what I mean? Like, so dry brushing is either used at a beginner level, at a low standard level, or at a high level, or at an expert level. Dry brushing is neither good nor bad, high or low. It's how good are you at dry brushing? Which same with using a shader, a wash, or a glaze, or a base coat. It's all beginner stuff, or it's all the stuff, and there's nothing more to look for than the stuff. It's not, I'm a beginner, so I'll learn beginner stuff, and then I'll learn intermediate stuff, and then I'll learn expert stuff. Everyone can do all of it. You will just do it at your level. And your level is based on your awareness of how the machine of yourself works and how well you've learned to drive that machine. And that machine is driven in our hobby in three particular areas. Your ability to load, the ability to set your consistency, load it on your brush in the right way, make it the right shape, and apply it to the model in the right way. That any level of painter has to do in any style at every point.
Yeah.
With an airbrush.
Yeah.
With a hairy brush.
Yeah.
And that's that. So are you paying attention to how you set your consistency? Oh, yeah. Well, if you've got a good definition then of what that consistency should be. You hear this 1 of milk or 1 of 2-to-1 ratios or whatever it is. But there's not a bad consistency of paint.
It's a different tool for a different job.
Different tools for different jobs. Yeah,
exactly.
So when first you need to just start learning to recognize what your objectives are, and then start going through those 3 processes. I'm trying not to get bogged down in all my weird details. Now we've gone off on loads of mad tangents.
No, it's good. It's good. Like talking paint is good.
It is. I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it? But the ultimate thing is painting is a human journey, So where are you being human to yourself, and where are you being inhuman to yourself is how you're going to learn to move forward.
Well, where I picked up on that was I had a conscious sort of shift in my perspective on all this stuff about like a year and a half ago ish, and it was the idea of just asking yourself the question of like why you do the hobby.
Mm.
And for me, I realized that the bit where I'm having the most fun, like peak enjoyment level, is when I'm sat at home after a long day's like hard work and I can just put a podcast on or my music and just relax and just spend time painting.
Yeah, man.
So I've made a shift to just make sure that I'm doing that bit as much as possible and not stressing out about, I want to learn this technique, I want to get these results, I want to get this army finished, I want to get, and that's part of the fun of like this sort of army project-ish that I'm doing at the minute is it's kind of like never ending. There's no like end goal on it.
There isn't an end goal with the hobby, so like there's no rush to finish and there's no rush to be good.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it.
And you should do the thing that you just have the most fun doing. And like results are relative to every, like some people will be really, really dead happy with a fairly basic model and some people won't be. Or you could even just like execution levels, like someone could do a non-metallic metal that is like worse or one that's amazing. But as long as you're happy with it and you enjoyed doing it, then that's a win.
Well, the thing is, again, we'll come back to if someone is not happy with it, then compare it to somebody that is succeeding where you're not and quantify how they're doing it and then start learning to apply those quantifications, you know.
Extrapolate the things that you look at and you go, mine doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
How have they actually got to that? What have they done? What am I not doing that they're doing that's equating to that? And I think
How do they hold the brush? How much water do they use? When they pick up water out the pot, how do they do that? Because some people just burn any amount of water and, you know.
Yeah.
What's nice is, you know, you learned your or have applied your learnings to getting the most out of the hobby, going on podcast on, enjoy some painting. For those that maybe have a more busy mind like me, I'll sit there and I'm aspiring to do that still. So I'm telling people this. It's like bear me scars story to hopefully inspire people. But the point is I'll go home and do that, and I'll have the voice in my head saying, "Oh, everyone's going to judge you for this." And that voice is still there, nagging me. Do you know what I do? I ignore the out of that voice. So for those that are in that mental space, well, you still have a choice.
Not to get too deep, but to be honest with you, like I'm very similar. I have a very, it's very loud in my brain.
Of course it is.
And that's the one place where it's quiet. And that's why I've honed in on that. There's a lot of noise going on in my head, like day-to-day anxiety, stress. Like I'm neurodiverse as well. So, and that's like the one place where I can kind of be at peace.
Brilliant. I 100% synergize with that. Like sitting and painting with just either like a film score on or an audio book and just focusing on painting is like, it's like the calm in the storm, which I don't get enough to do, being honest with the way things are in life. But
and for someone else, like that might be playing the game with your friends, or it might be reading the book, like, you know, the codex or something like that. Like there's so many avenues within the hobby. If you find that one that, like I said, your peak enjoyment might not be the painting part, but whatever it is, like if you can find that and just laser focus on it, I think you'll be the most fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. And ignore your own, but acknowledge what's useful in your mind and what's not useful in your mind, and apply what's useful, and just ignore what isn't, and kind of love it a little bit. Don't like flagellate your own brain either, because that'll drive you insane. You end up bald like me. All falls out.
Let's pivot this slightly then.
Go on, go for it.
The question which you might be expecting, and we're all
this was just the introduction as well.
This is good. It's been grand.
Go on.
You said wet pallets offer zero control of paint.
Go on.
Let's start extrapolating.
Why? Well, let's prerequisite. Why do you have that opinion? And can you maybe reiterate that conversation?
So, tray. There's a tray for a wet pallet. In the tray goes a sponge. In the sponge goes some water, maybe in the tray as well. If you want to put the water in first, go for it. On the sponge and on the water go a film of some description, some kind of porous paper. Capillary action draws water up through the sponge into the paper to the surface of the paper. Paint goes on that. Convection goes in to the paint. Yeah. And that's dilution. Is there any disagreements so far?
I would the only thing that I would kick back on is that I don't use a manufactured one, so I don't use.
We're big DIY.
We're big
palette.
DIYs.
Yeah, why not?
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah.
I don't find that water goes through. I don't use a sponge. I use like paper towel. So I
Kitchen paper.
I use kitchen paper, double layer it so it's a bit thicker, and then put obviously the baking sheet over the top of it. I find that because it's got a satin finish, it's got that satiny kind
kind of like
that waxy kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't get water go through it personally.
I'll also chime in on that as well. The way that the kitchen paper convects the water is different to the sponge, because I found that sponge wants to hold the water to itself, whereas the kitchen paper, when it's fully saturated, is almost like submerged within the water.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
It behaves very differently.
Right. So, is there water from the tray touching the paint?
No.
Right. So this is interesting. So you're saying it's temperature that keeps the paint?
Yeah, because it's cold. Because it's colder. Yeah.
So this is different now. This is new information for me, which
Okay.
is wonderful.
Yeah.
Right. So back when I was using wet pallets, let's use. I don't know if you know Paint and Meg Maples.
Yeah.
Right. So she did a post a long time ago about all the paints separating and spreading out around the wet palette. Could this be too much water? Could this be the wrong paper? Could it be the wrong sponge? Could it be the fact that maybe paper's changed?
First thing I would do if I'm buying a wet palette is throw away the paper that it comes with, because I think it's absolutely rubbish.
Why is that?
Because I've found that the way it behaves is very unpredictable, because it both dries out and is wet at the same time in a very confusing way.
So this sounds like zero control to me.
Well, the other thing I find as well is that the manufactured paper, or the paper, I say manufactured, all paper's manufactured, the paper that comes with the branded pallets has a more matte finish.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. So
I've got two thoughts on that. The baking sheet is designed for cakes to not stick to it. Yeah, that's what it's designed for. You put it in, so whatever food you put in or whatever doesn't stick to it, it stops the food sticking to a tray or whatever the case may be. Because of that satin sheen that it's got, the paint behaves very similar to how it behaves on plastic, because it has this very similar finish property. Does that make sense? So the reason why I like using it massively over any of the other papers that are out there is because visually, when I'm doing dilution, for incremental dilution for different stages or for different aspects of execution, I can tweak the paint on the palette to visibly behave how I know it needs to behave and how I want it to behave.
Yeah.
On the miniature. Does that make sense?
So if you've got a surface that isn't wet,
yeah,
that simulates a plastic surface.
correct. Yeah.
That's cool enough.
Yeah.
Then I'd say you've got a good tool there.
Yeah.
Because I think part of where I've always thought this comes from is beginners especially set up a wet palette for the first time. When I say beginners, I mean people that just aren't necessarily familiar with wet palettes, right?
Not educated.
The surface will be absolutely soaked with water. So when they're putting paint, and I don't just mean the paper is soaked, I mean there's standing puddles of water.
Yeah.
So when you're putting paint on there, that water's quite hard to see, and it's immediately soaking up into the paper. And people say like, oh, wet palettes automatically thin your paint. I don't think they do. I think that people are just setting up palettes with too much water on it.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I'll do before I even start painting is I get a bit of kitchen paper and I dry the top sheet of paper to make sure there's no
I take
standing
the extra
water
water off, because when I set it up, my baking sheet is cut shorter in size or smaller than the kitchen paper. And what happens is you get a perfectly sealed border that stops air from permeating.
Like an airtight
it's
seal.
an airtight seal.
Do you know what I like? You two on me like raptors.
No.
But the point is, I can see you're excited to share it. This is exciting for me because this is new information.
So I didn't know what you use. I didn't know if you used like. We're not. By the way, I just want to caveat: we're definitely not trying to be raptors to you. Like no, honestly, like I. It was when I watched. Obviously, you talk about it. I was really interested because I was like, well, I didn't understand what you were using. I didn't understand what it was that you were like, what your experience came from. So this is why I was like,
this is a great question. What experience have I come from?
Yeah.
You know, so wet palettes have changed, obviously changed when I was young. So when I was using a wet palette, in our industry, they were non-existent as our industry products. There are always products brought in from another industry.
Well, it's like the airbrush.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like the airbrush, yeah.
So when I talk about the thing with Meg Maples, I hope she's doing well, by the way. She was a name back in the day. I have no clue who's who anymore,
amazing
really.
painter.
You know,
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that is also from back in those times. People who would come to me with wet palettes would all have these same objects. So if paper has changed, which it obviously must have,
I don't know.
I don't know about the stuff that comes with the palette because, like I said, we don't use it. We just use normal baking paper.
Baking sheet, yeah.
Well, so, all right, okay. So either way, you've made a deliberate decision to fix a deliberate problem, or not a deliberate problem, but
an issue,
an actual issue.
Like you said, being conscious of the problems that you're having with the tool, and then making changes to adjust and rectify.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the things is like, quite rightly, like you said, it's a thing that's been brought from outside. Like when I started painting Airfix as a kid, I literally, same as yourself, and I know you've used one, I used to use a tile. So I used to use a tile all the time.
Tiles are out for me.
Tiles are out, yeah. They're definitely out. But I used to use a tile like back in the day because obviously it being ceramic, it's a cooler temperature, so the paint does endure a bit longer on it. Obviously, through evaporation, it dies quite quickly, you know. And then it's only been in the last, same as like airbrushes, it's probably only been in the last, 10 years that they've had
less than, I'd argue.
Well, I don't know. Like, well, yeah, maybe some of the branded and manufactured ones, but I'd probably say that
within the last 10 years,
within the last 10 years, the rise of knowledge of it and the use of it has increased massively. The same as airbrushes.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
in 2013, 2014, like the airbrush wasn't used as much anywhere near what it's talked about, the demos, videos, all this kind of stuff. It wasn't really, you know, I'm very old school. I used to just rattle can models, you know.
I still do.
Yeah. But this is the thing. The way I think, and I mean this in the most direct way possible, I think your ability with the dry palette is phenomenal. The finish that you get and the quality that you get is it, but it shows that you've mastered that tool and learned its behavioral characteristics. It's very similar to what I said about watching the paint on the kitchen, on the baking sheet.
Yeah.
You've attuned through, like you said, attention. You've attuned your eye to painting in a way with that tool and getting a comparable, if not even better, finish with it. And I think that's really, really testament to what you know.
So thank you. Two things. One, have you got a wet palette in here set up?
No.
Your way?
No.
Not in another room?
I can show you one. Yeah.
Because I'd rather do it on camera. I'd rather
We can
learn
do
here.
one. I can pause and we can grab one.
I'd rather learn on camera.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if I've got a public opinion that people have an opinion of, and that he is this guy, that guy, blah, blah, blah.
No.
If I've got gaps in my knowledge. So normally I say, you will know this at the beginning of a lesson. I'll say at the beginning, if there's any to call them. If I've got a gap in my knowledge, I want it filling.
It's not a gap in your... It's not...
Well, no, because it is, right? If I've got a gap in my knowledge, fill it. And if I've not got a gap in my knowledge, I'll fill yours. Right? But that's the point, innit? Is this is about love of the hobby and education in it regardless, and I get a kick out of it. If there's something I've missed, I want to know it.
We're not trying to trap you, by the way.
No. This is what I get a kick out of.
I wanted to, because when I watched it, I was like, what is he? I literally, my gut instinct was, well, have you tried baking sheet before? Have you tried?
You see, right? This is beautiful because you're still being a demonstration of the idea that it's awareness and choice that propels you through this hobby.
Yeah.
It's not the equipment you buy. It's not the money you're spending. It's not any jargon you think you've got. You know, it has to be wet blended. It has to be two brush blended. It has to be loaded. Whatever it is, it has to be stipple. Blah blah blah. Without this up here, then you're done. But I said two things earlier on. One is I'd like to learn, right, and be educated. The second thing is I want to say thank you for acknowledging my dry palette use thing. And
I mean sincerely about that, by the way.
Well, yeah, but it excites me to demonstrate it.
Right? I'll say this now. So when we painted together, when we hung out and painted, and I saw you. We done like some non-metallics and done some bits and done some blending, and it was really fun, like really good weekend. When we did that, and I saw you working the way that you worked with the dry palette, I was like, I have not seen anyone use and manipulate the paint on a dry palette and get the smoothness of result like you have before. It was eye-opening for me.
What is your dry palette that you use? Is it just...
Right. So actually, this is half a shelf from a Warhammer store. I'd say a Warhammer. I say a Warhammer store because it's a Warhammer store, not a Games Workshop, because they changed the shelf racks, and this is half a shelf.
What is that, plastic?
It's
Wood?
just a plastic card thing. It would be MDF, but MDF is very absorbent.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
I noticed that you primed it.
Yeah, but once you seal it with paint, once you got this much paint in it, like not like a tile, but
MDF
like
was the original one.
Yeah.
Like a tile, once you got a layer of paint on there, the paint behaves on the paint how it does on, because it's black, because it's acrylic, it's plastic. It behaves very similar to how it would on a miniature. So that's what I was saying to you. Like, the reason why, personally, for me, baking sheet works really well is because it's got that, very similar to this. It's got that.
Ironically, the finish is actually very similar.
It is, yeah, you're quite right.
But that's the point, isn't it? So this is plastic. It's got undercoat spray on it. That is an exact simulation
of the miniature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exact.
Yeah,
so any decision I make there will be exactly what happens on the model.
Yeah.
You know. But I was trying to go on about something. What you've got to realize about this is, this to me isn't innovation. This is that 8-year-old kid. This is normal. To me, this is normal. And because this is so normal to me, I apply my normal to you.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And I just want to say, well, any money or any equipment you feel you have to spend money on or build, you kind of just need that. And if I can do it being a normal guy, then you can do it being normal people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Can I just say as well, this conversation is kind of proof that, like, there's no wrong or right way to do things.
No, so this is
everyone's got their own approach and preferences.
Yeah. So let me just address something. While I might say, and that opinion will change, I assume, if you're going to dive and get a wet palette, right? While I might say zero control in dilution from water through sponge through paper to paint, and if that's not how it works, then that's now wrong. And the zero control of evaporation, I can't stop evaporation.
That's the one thing you can't, is the evaporation.
Right?
Yeah.
So the only one thing I do have control of in this old model of what I have is my own dilution. Yeah, so I use a brush, use a dropper, whatever it might be, to add water to the paint on whatever surface it's on. That's where I have control. I have 100% control over that. I can't remember where I was going with all this. But the point is because this is normal to me, any weather, any environment, then that to me is an encouraging thing because it's minimal, you know. So I have this thing about the internet is very much product-based or jargon-based, which is either expensive or confusing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or both.
Well, yeah. Well,
yeah.
It is both, right? So this leaves me in a very passionate place because I'm all about empowering people. Whether you want to paint at a low standard, high standard, army standard, display standard, somewhere in the middle, just for fun, blah, 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 blah. The point is the love of painting, it is the thing to cultivate.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
And if a wet palette is what you need to do that, and I've always been solid on this. So I have a 20-minute, how long is my wet palette video that I did ages ago? It's some time long, right? And not one point do I say don't use a wet palette.
No, but
I'm very conscious of that every time. And the reason is which way you do it, if you're not having fun, then you're doing it wrong. That's the bit. If you're not having fun, then you need to adjust something.
No, totally.
If you're like, so while there's a difference in skill between, for example, somebody who can blend with a brush flawlessly from one color to another, and somebody who needs to use an airbrush, there's a vast difference in skill in that. But if you're having fun, why should you have to tick my boxes? No one has to tick my boxes. My job is to teach people how to have fun. There are people who come at me for a painting lesson just to spend some time and sit and paint next to me because that's the vibe we're cultivating. And some people will come to be grilled. Well, that's because that's what they want. They want to know, what is it, that or is it that?
If you're a miniature painter, you'll know how important it is to have the right tools for the hobby, but it doesn't matter what brushes or paints you have if you can't see what you're doing in the first place. If you want to improve your painting, contorting yourself under a small, repurposed lamp from around the house, giving yourself a backache and straining your eyes just isn't going to cut it. That's why one of the biggest upgrades I've ever made to my painting setup was my Onyx painting lamp from Native Lighting. Its articulating arm allows me to sit in the perfect painting position for those long hobby sessions, and its super bright 2200 lumen, dimmable LEDs cast soft and diffused light on my models without any harsh shadows. As someone with a very small hobby space, by far my favourite feature is its adjustable mounting clamp, which attaches to the side of my desk, maximising my free workspace. And its daylight colour balance temperature of 6500K gives you the confidence that colours you are painting are accurate and your miniatures will pop on the tabletop. To upgrade your setup to the equipment we rely on here at Siege Studios, head to the link in this episode's description or go to siegestudios.co.uk/shop. Okay, we've had a quick break and we've acquired some wet pallets paraphernalia.
Reinforcements have arrived. Yeah.
Yeah. It's exciting. What we said, I was saying earlier on, it's important that I go through this. It's important.
I don't know if important's the word. I just.
It is for me.
You think?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
important. Well, like I was saying earlier on, and I say it to all my students, if there's a gap in my knowledge, call on anything I say, preferably politely, especially if you're in my house. But please, like, I encourage questions. I encourage challenges, because I love the hobby. And if there's a gap in my knowledge, I want it filling.
Yeah.
And if there's a gap in your knowledge, I'll fill it.
We said earlier, this is all preference. So this is we're not saying this is
not.
the correct best way to do it. This is just our opinion, what we like.
So the question is how have I avoided and potentially missed this for however long?
Well, that's why I was like, I was like, how? Like, have you never seen?
So here's the answer, because this is so normal, and you've already said about my proficiency with this.
Yeah.
I'm real quick with this as well.
Yeah.
I don't need one of them.
No, fair.
So in the instance of not needing one, even in this warm room, because it's warm in here, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it's warm.
Right. And the thing is I'm happy to sit in here and paint using this, and it's spray black, so it's going to be warmer. It's not been put in the fridge. Like, it's a good tip for anyone using a dry pallet, by the way.
James says that about wet pallets.
Wet pallet,
yeah, why not? Yeah. Especially if it's not going to be absorbent through the paper, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So then cool is better.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe put some ice on the corners.
Oh,
literally,
I can hear Joe rolling his eyes as he listens to this episode.
I do that in summer. Literally, I do that in summer. I put them in the corners.
But this is the thing, isn't it? But once you get used to lateral problem solve based thinking, you're going to get better at everything quicker, because you will just see the obvious answers. But that's the thing, isn't it? Like, because I
can't believe you I can't believe you said about ice cubes. I was literally about to say
it. but see, we needed to do it. What a great podcast, I think.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
You know?
Also, I've actually done it.
Yeah, it does
After
work.
You said, it does work. The reason
Well, of course it does, because evaporation is because of heat, innit? So all we got to do is reduce the heat, you know. But don't use fans to do it. Yeah, you know.
James, what have you got then?
So, as ever, I've got my snob paper, the Blitz, which I always recommend for doing this with.
I will say for international people, just whatever your high quality absorbent kitchen paper is.
Absorbent kitchen paper.
See, this is new to me. I was saying before, I'm in Sponge World.
Yeah.
So the world of sponge is now gone.
Yeah.
Check me out, learning.
Yeah. Like, so I always fold it because the good thing with Blitz is that you've got a big sheet. It's like quite a large sheet. I'm not sponsored. I'd love to be.
Product-based learning.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but it's obviously got all these pockets that are designed to absorb and retain the moisture, if that makes sense. And I double it over, so it's obviously because the single sheet on its own is actually massive. And then this is literally just grease-proof.
You got two types of paper.
So I've got 2 sheets of grease-proof that I pre-cut, and then we've got.
For comparison's sake, we've got a pre-manufactured. You buy it in the big bulk pack. Yeah. You can see how opaque that is compared to this as well.
Yeah. Oh, we want to know, don't we?
No.
All right. Yeah, feel that. Feel like that would end up on my fingers as well.
It's really good.
Yeah, the wax.
Yeah, it's really, really
Is
good.
it wax?
I don't know if it's wax or not. I don't know what it is.
It's got some sort of waxy coating on it.
It's got something on it, which just the paint behaves so differently on it to anything else.
Well, think about it. Like you said, it's designed for baking. And what do you want when you're baking something? You don't want it to stick.
You don't. You don't want the cakes to stick.
And it's obviously food safe. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely, you can already feel how much more I mean, that's already soaked through.
The way I've always explained it is like, you know, when like a car has just been like freshly polished and waxed,
And you
and
see
all the water just
droplets,
beads off.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very
This
similar.
is fascinating. I love this.
Yeah.
Right.
So I will literally. Yeah, I can do. Yeah, I can
Less messy.
use that. That's fine. Yeah. So I wet it enough so that the whole thing is wet, but not so we've got like a swimming pool basically. If in summer it is hotter, you can put a bit more, but I don't generally do it. The ice cube thing, I know we joked about it, but the ice cube thing is a valid thing. You just stick them in the corner. All of these raised bits on here, this is like the worst thing in the world. All right, okay.
Right.
So like I'll literally just use a brush to just get all this out and get all the air, and you can see the air out coming out the edge of the but I'm literally just using the brush just to get it nice and tight and get all the air out from underneath.
Yeah, man.
So it
Perfect.
it stops any kind of like pockets of air expanding through evaporation.
Do you remove this excess?
Sorry?
Or do you leave the excess?
No, I leave the excess typically.
Yeah,
like, I mean, we're on a bit of a slant, so just imagine that it's not there. I mean, I put a little bit too much in, and then same with this. I'll get the sheet, and the sheet goes directly in the center of the paper towel, and you'll get this curving happen at the edge. The edges lift a little bit, but once you've gone your finger a few times with it, it will stick.
Once
down.
it's started to absorb the moisture, it will level.
Same again. I'll literally just use the brush to.
It's like silk screening a t-shirt.
To tweeze out any kind of air at all whatsoever. And I've actually done this tray is like perfectly flat, so it's for some reason it's behaving really well actually. And I'll just use the brush to get out as much air pockets as possible.
It's also more enjoyable to paint on when you've got a nice even flat surface. You see a lot of people that have got the wet palette and there's all the wrinkles and all the papers, you know, all folded up.
The setup of the palette is literally the most important thing.
So what happens if this is overlapping here slightly?
Air gets underneath.
Right,
so what you've got now is you've pushed all the air out. You've got a completely sealed.
It's like laminated
sealed barrier. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I haven't got another bit of kitchen paper, but imagine that I did. I would literally just soak up any excess little droplets of water that are on there. I would then just soak those up. George is going to grab some. Yeah. So all I'll do is I'll literally just now with another bit, and this can be the bit that you wipe your brush on and off if you want to, or whatever.
This is the important part that I was speaking about earlier. It's removing that standing water and all of the puddles on the surface of the baking paper, so that when you put your paint on there, there's no existing water that's just going to mix in.
Yeah. So now you've got a completely sealed environment. Yeah, like completely sealed. Which air can't obviously get under.
Does it matter which way up you put this paper?
Yeah, I always do it so the curve is down.
Down.
Yeah, it's for the obvious reason that the edges.
That's got more wax on it.
What's that?
I feel this has got more wax on this side.
It might vary depending on the actual paper that you have as well.
Yeah, it might vary. Yeah. I've always got in the habit of putting the curve upwards so that the edges don't instinctively curve and lift. Does that make sense? But if you want to try it the other way, go the other way. And the thing I love about it is, you said about like picking moisture up. So I'm just going to rinse the brush out. I don't use the water pot at all whatsoever for dilution at all. My dilution is completely using this, which is not only a barrier to stop air from getting under the sheet, it's also a dilution band. Yeah. So you'll just
James is talking about the surrounding perimeter of kitchen paper that is already slightly moist.
And the quicker you are with the touch, you can fluctuate how much moisture you pick up or deposit. That's the thing that I love about it, is that it gives you it gives you more refinement of dilution because you're not picking it up like a sponge, if that makes sense. Visually, if I want to do like a glaze, for example, I can just pick a bit, deposit, and then I can either rinse the brush out or I can even use this to dilute, and then create the glaze while working. But that's what I love about having this. And then the thing you were talking about specifically, which is really important to me and it's something that I really love, which is attention. You're not going here, over here. All your attention is like here while you're working, if that makes sense. That's what I love about it. And again, it just allows you, and this elastic property, you can see this lovely elastic property here on the surface. Obviously, introducing more paint reduces that elasticity because you can see.
Can I have a feel of that brush?
Of course you can. Yeah. So it just gives you the ability to then essentially the paint behaves how it will do on the miniature.
Yeah.
Which I love about it. And again, you don't get the issues that you have with this, where it dries in a patch, if that makes sense. it just behaves very, very differently. And I love using this dilution band. Like I very rarely do I ever get water from this. This is just cleaning the brush out. And if I want to tweak the consistency, I'm just using the perimeter to put a tiny bit of moisture in, do it again, or touch it for a little bit longer to pick up a bit more.
Yeah, absolutely.
It gives you that.
Did you catch what I did on camera there?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, nice, wicked.
So let's talk about it.
Well, I mean, we can see a difference already, can't we?
Yeah.
In how this is behaving versus how this is behaving.
Well, you got evaporation happening
Oh
already.
yeah, absolutely. Because this is a brush stroke.
Yeah.
As in, I want it to dry now.
Yeah.
You know, which is interesting. You know, I tried the Ionic. Sorry, I tried the Ionic. I'm trying to talk past these now. I tried the Ionic range recently.
Yeah.
Did it at
How you found them?
UK Games Expo. They have got the longest drying time of any paint I've ever experienced. I left a blob of paint like this big on the palette for about an hour in temperatures like this at UK Games Expo. When I come back, it was still wet, ready to go.
Really?
Yeah, I was a little bit.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
So I think depends who you are, doesn't it? I'm a snappy painter.
You use a hairdryer as well.
So you see, you know how quick I can paint. You just saw how quick I set that and did these two brush strokes there, and they're pretty much opaque.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd say they're as ideal, which is your brush setup, by the way. So
top stuff.
Yeah.
Tommie approved.
but the point is if I'm going to get paint on that quick, I'm also ready to get the next layer on that quick.
Yeah.
I don't want to hang around waiting for my paint to dry.
Yeah.
You know, but there's times, let's say if I'm wet blending, two brush technique, blah, 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 then I'll appreciate some extra drying time because I want to work with those things.
Well, you don't put like medium into it, or you don't put like
I never use mediums or retarders. So I assume those paints have got those two things in there, you know.
Yeah. It's very different. So probably
I'm excited for this. That's why I wanted the brush.
What are your initial thoughts? Again, there's no right or wrongs here. So
well, it's not that. So let me have a go first.
Yeah, go crazy. Go
do you want to swap this over?
Yeah, go sick.
No, keep it as it is. It's okay. You know. So basically, what you saw me do there, is my standard our set of consistency, and you saw it was real quick before I was happy to go.
Yeah.
You know, so let me just go back to this. Gently wash this near your electronical equipment. Right. I'm going in that in a second.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, no, I never do that. I actually use my jeans. Whoosh. You know, so I'm not gonna be ready to go. So just as quick as you saw before. Yeah. So I'll now be managing this.
As you're working.
Yeah, I'll be managing it, and I'll be managing it through either little dips like that, or weirdly.
You'll put
as you've got there.
Yeah.
So I'm not dancing around here, there, and everywhere. But it depends on the time.
Yeah.
You know, if I've not got a lot of time due to heat or due to the size, we see a heat-related thing anyway, but the size of the brush, because it dries quicker and I don't have time to fart around wafting my brush through the air to dry it off to there, then to here, then to there, then to my model. Then wait for a minute while I target, and then blah, blah, blah. You checking the audio there?
No, we're good.
Because I realise I'm leaning down.
It's all good. You're good. Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm not here to go on about this. I'm here to try this, aren't I? Oh, yeah. Come here, Mr. Dude.
Sorry, I keep closing that.
Oh, no. Do you know what? I'm going to start again from this. I'm not going to use your mix. I'm going to use your method, if I can see.
What, using the band?
Yeah. Well, because if I'm here to do it, aren't I? I mean, not that we arranged to do it, but
no.
If I'm here to learn, then I'm here to learn. What have we got here? What have we got? In fact, I'll just try here first, just so it's easier to see for everyone. What do you reckon of my technique, James?
I'm not here to judge you. I'm just trying to see if you like it.
Well, I just want to know. Well, see, the thing is, here we are using a tool. Tools need skill to use, either to be effective or ineffective.
Whilst I agree with you on that, at the same time, I do think repetition being the mother of success and having muscle memory of execution. I think it's the best way to explain it is like you've driven cars before.
Yeah, man.
If you get into a new car you've never driven before, you know how to operate it and how to do it. But it's just you just get used to the feel of it quite quickly. Does that make sense? It's very similar to this. Like it's interesting that you're finding that you can use that pretty much instantaneously.
Yeah.
But that's because you've got a bit of moisture already in the brush,
what I'm about
potentially.
to address now. I'm
Yeah.
literally about to give this
Yeah.
to you and say how much moisture you start off with in this.
Well, it was damp anyway a little bit, but if you really want a proper test of using this band, I would dry the brush head out as much as you can, and then I would
as much as I can.
Well, I would dry the brush head out, and
you do it.
I would brush it. Well, yeah.
Okay. To whatever it is you want.
And I would then try using this and seeing how this works for setting your dilution.
So you bringing these guys, the awesome
Chaos
models,
Cultists, amazing models. Yeah, they're fantastic.
This one in particular is top.
It's left-handed as well, mate.
Oh, he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
Check you out there.
You don't. Just one thing. You don't ever see left-handed, like very many left-handed models in 40K or in general.
So where's the moisture coming from?
The moisture is coming from. Well, the brush has got a bit in it, but you can tweak the moisture from using the band. So if you find it's not thick enough, or if you just want to reduce it down slightly, you can just touch the perimeter quite quickly, I find. So you do so that's interesting. You do the exact same thing that I would do on the dilution band, but you're using the water part.
I actually forgot I'd left that there, which is why I'm back here now. Is it but for some people that don't know how much moisture is taken up? It's a great example. That might have been too much. That might have been enough.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I've probably got too much anyway now. But you can see now how much I've changed from this kind of consistency to this one.
Yeah.
You know.
You got a bit more transparency in it now.
Well, it's just for those that want to know. Because some people don't, they just think adding water in a paint is diluting it. Well, it's just, if you don't know how much you're doing in amounts that can't be quantified with numbers, then how much is the right amount? And some people just take any amount.
It's a feel, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's experience as well, dictates what's what. Oh, this is your paint, isn't it?
That's right, mate. Don't worry.
It's all right. I mean, I'd be having my students close mine anyway. But what's nice is this, I don't know if you noticed, but my actions either way are the same actions,
The thing that
I think that's a car driving analogy that you
it is,
said.
yeah, it's very much like these are different vehicles, but because of the skill of using the vehicle or driving the vehicle, you can use and manipulate them in a very similar way. Does that make sense?
Hopefully. So this is wonderful. This, by the way, as people can see, there's no diffusion, there's no convection of the paint around this paper, which is a lot of the issues people came to me with.
Yeah.
So this here, true to word, how long this is going to last, I don't know.
It's pretty hot in here.
Guess
the ice cubes, George.
But the point is this is demonstrating its value to people. You know what I mean? And it is just, where's this tray? It looks like something out of a freezer or something.
This is an IKEA storage tray.
So,
I mean,
that's the lid.
That's the lid. The lid of it. So yeah. This
is fascinating. This, by the way, because I absolutely see the value. I would use this intuitively, the same as I would use this.
But they're different tools inherently.
Absolutely
as well.
different.
So
yeah, absolutely.
I'm not going to get
the mechanic is different.
Yeah.
There's no doubts about the way the mechanics of what's happening here. This is just a flat bit of plastic. This is a tray of a thing and a thing. And that's that. But what's interesting is how I'm behaving here is the same as I'm behaving here. But that's like what you said, that's skill based.
Of course it is, yeah.
We can just spend some time, can't we? Just waiting. Because the ultimate point is with the dry palette is about drying time.
Yeah.
So with drying time, I assume both of these to a degree are drying. I'm not really gonna tell now, are we?
No. They will be. I mean, I said like the
much slower though, I would say.
I would probably say that
I mean,
this will
that's
still
gonna
this
dry
will
slower.
still dry. It will dry slower, but the thing that I like about this, and this is what I talk about friction a lot when you're using a palette, whether it's a dry palette, wet palette, whatever. Friction is a huge problem because it creates obviously rougher finish, the way you layer the paint. The one thing I'll say is quite flat outly. One thing that while you were base coating this, the way you do singular brush stroke, flat and smooth to put the single layer on, that's something that a lot of painters, unfortunately, they'll be painting like this, and we talk about it all the time.
Blows my mind.
You're disturbing the previous layer whereas the singular controlled brushstroke with an opaque, a viscous paint that allows you to obviously do a single brushstroke and layer opaquely.
Should we demonstrate that for people now?
I think you should, yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to exaggerate the consistency a little bit. So I don't know if people are familiar, but at the end of every brushstroke, there's a puddle like that.
Yeah.
And you see in this puddle, we've got a consistent streak of paint, then a dark spot around it, and then the puddle at the end. So at the end of every brushstroke, you've got that build-up of paint. And if this was thicker, opaque paint, then you might not see that larger volume of material, whether it's pigment, whatever it is. Yeah. So the more time you do that, you leave a thing, you leave a thing, you leave a thing, you leave a thing. And I'm just staggering these just so you can see, so I don't disturb each one. Yeah. But when you do a singular brushstroke, I mean, let's just take that there. How consistent is that as an object? You know. So when you do fewer, longer, smoother strokes, it's all in the book, by the way. When you do fewer, longer, smoother strokes, you end up with a more consistent, even finish, but it takes less time, less actions, yields a higher result. So economy is the way to go.
Yeah, it's not sacrificing quality though.
No.
So
you're
maximizing quality
it increases
and being
quality.
more efficient with the usage of the brush. Yeah.
So the quality is a result of your ability to be economical. You know, and that's the exciting bit about awareness and choice and developing that as your skill, because you start to ask yourself, where am I wasting actions? You know, so like I was counting, because I often count brushstrokes with any video I watch. If I watch someone on Instagram, whatever, I once counted at 80 brushstrokes per line. That was probably that big, maybe even smaller. 80 brushstrokes to paint a line on a base coat. That was that big for a brush, for that would take one, you know, and
they're just reworking the paint over and over and over again.
Well, I mean, I don't really know I can see what's happening. There's lots of small brush strokes going la 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 la. I don't know what the intention is with that. The paint is being worked again and again and again, where those brush strokes overlap, you know. And if there's drying time involved in that in a really warm space, if you've got a thin application of paint, therefore less drying time, then each time those two brushstrokes overlap, there's a risk to add a little bit of a like stipply texture like you've got on your Artex wall there.
Don't judge my wall painting, Tommy. It's not
good.
no. It's not good. Don't look up at the cutting in, please. Don't
look up here.
Yeah, don't look. Do not look at the cutting in. It's not good.
The point is this is deliberate, and if you've done this blue, you
probably I stippled that on purpose. Yeah, that texture.
But it's underneath, isn't it? I can see it.
No, Is it underneath? Is it underneath? Oh yeah. Don't look around the radiator. Come on.
God forbid you look up there.
Yeah, don't look at the ceiling. All right. Okay.
What?
I only had a short space of time, all right? Okay. I had a short space of time, needed to do it. All right. Okay.
Brilliant. Should have used a wet palette.
Yeah, I should have used it. Yeah.
So, but this is the exciting bit in it of what is miniature painting. It's a human skill. Yeah. That's what makes it exciting to us. I want to paint well because I want to demonstrate that I'm that man. That's why we get nervous when we think we might not be that man, because there's that bit of emotion involved, you know. But ultimately, some people's skill is great in creating results. So you'll create results through equipment-based things like airbrushes, you know, for putting on quick base coats, smooth base coats, creating quick, easy blends, blah, 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 blah. And then the artistry comes and the skill comes in. How do you create and manufacture an image using these tools you enjoy using? You know, I'm very much a painter that really enjoys using the minimal amount of things that require the most amount of skill. That absolutely kicks my wick. But it absolutely excites me doing that type of business. So, you know, I'll turn up, well, I say I would turn up with paint, model, brush and a palette, bit of water, but I forgot my paint, didn't I? Today?
It's all good. We got you covered. Yeah,
of course you did. It was, I'm well happy with it. I'm over the moon with today.
It's been good.
But, you know, so like, with that, with just these few things, you can learn to paint as well as good old George here, who was showing me his heavy metal style and standard Space Marines from up on your shelf there. And what George was saying is it's the ideal style. and the reason is it contains all the mechanical skills with which to learn every other style. So again, at the beginning of my book, I say I use the Games Workshop style, not the heavy metal style, but the Games Workshop style, which is generally a base coat, layer on some kind of shade, layer on some kind of highlight in a line-based manner, right? Some people might use the word edge highlight-based manner, but it's in line, whether it's on the edge of something or not. On a marine shoulder pad, there's no edge there on that inside field, if you will. So it's a line-based highlight. Those mechanics, because the shapes are so basic in that classic Games Workshop style, allow you to get the basic mechanics in no matter what. You don't need to have arty-farty brushstrokes and knowledge of color theory or anything else. It's just a perfect foundational springboard where you can learn every other style a lot easier straight off the bat.
I think in a full beans heavy metal Space Marine leg has every single technique of miniature painting in it. Like even down to I would say like dry brushing. If you break down the mechanics of what dry brushing is, it's having a very, very minimal amount of paint on the brush, and the actual contact with an angled surface is what wicks the paint away. If I've got a size 000 brush and I'm doing a dot highlight on the very, very end, that's effectively a dry brush.
So this is fantastic. So what you just said there, there's one bit you missed. So I said from the beginning, the ability to set your consistency, which dry is the instance with dry brushing. The ability to load your brush, very little amount on your brush, apply it to model in a very deliberate way. You spoke about the location, and that's miniature painting. Yeah, and that applies to an airbrush. It applies to a manufacturer's already loaded your crayon if you're going to use a crayon for doing battle damage or whatever other tool it is. But either way, the consistency needs setting.
I think that's it. Like lighting wise, as I mentioned, it's not factual to light, but what it teaches you in the mechanics of painting and all the things that lead to like I always go on about sharp, smooth, neat, clean. If you hone on those things, you can always turn it down and be messy or be rougher or be like I think what it grounds in you if you learn that style of painting is, like you said, it's all the things which you can easily adapt with competency.
It's also it's precision.
To execute.
It's precision.
Yeah,
over everything else.
Yeah, I think it does have like, you know.
So you can learn other styles first.
Well, this is it. I was say like other styles.
They're a bit more in flux. Other styles.
Yeah.
I think that's the great foundation, though. I like that people like start with that because it is, like you said, it's the foundational steps. Because if you want to go off and do, like painterly, non-metallic metal, this, that, and the other, well, you're going to learn blending. You're going to learn precise highlighting. Like you're going to learn glazing. Like all of those things are made up of that.
You're going to learn to be precise at every degree with this. What then the struggle to let go of when learning, let's say, more painterly styles is letting go. That how do we walk the line between letting go and just doing anything and being a scruffy, or letting go and allowing the right brushstrokes to create a stylistic and aesthetic result? That's where a little bit of artistry comes in. And what this style does is it helps you learn the rules of engagement. Yeah, very much like a language. Like, for example, a lot of people want to be original, but you go away and make an original language, you'll only be talking to yourself. Right? So you need to use existing material with which to create with in order to be original. So in other words, you need to learn a language before you can be a smart ass with it. And the heavy metal style really helps you learn that language. It helps you learn about what colors look nice together. It helps you learn what brushstrokes are precise and are not precise. It helps you learn what brushstrokes that, if they're not precise, do they look aesthetic? If they don't look aesthetic, don't use them in your painterly idea. If they do look aesthetic, use them in your painterly idea.
I think one of the things that a lot of people look at it as a stylistic execution or a language of paint, and it gets the skill or the ability that's required of it is not immediately evident, I don't think. And I think people look at it and don't see it for what it truly is, which is a very calculated, accurate, precise.
I think it's because it's visually simple.
Yeah,
that first glance.
You say it is, but then.
Well, I mean, it depends who you are, because I've shown some of my painting to some people, and they'll go like one of my best models, and it's like destroying when you get someone who kind of can't see it, but I mean, it's still valid because it's their world that they're viewing. You know, that's a big one for people to learn, by the way. Like, I've got to learn that in here. But, you know, I show my work to some people thinking, oh, they're going to be well impressed. I went, oh, yeah, my little lad does this. Wow, yeah, he does it just like that. And you're going, you know, but you know, some people don't necessarily have that eye developed yet.
Yeah. But interestingly, that's what I was talking about earlier, where people have got their different standards. So to someone like, even someone in this that is just painting for like the tabletop, it is just painted or unpainted.
Yeah.
And that's kind of okay too.
It's that is the beauty of all these lessons. So I think maybe we could start to wrap it up with this, because I'm going right back to the beginning. All the lessons I've had that have both elated and hurt me all come back to the idea that really we have to love the hobby, and loving the hobby is not just something that happens to you, but something you have to kind of curate. Do you know what I mean? And in that curation, you set an example throughout the rest of the aspects of your life that you can ascend through whatever steps to enjoy your life, enjoy your hobby, enjoy your family. You know, like a car you love, you don't just rag into the ground, you change the oil. You have to get out of bed and take that to a shop to do that, or you have to get out of bed and do that. You have to check your tire pressure. You have to love the car. It's an active thing as well as this emotional thing. You just feel, because cars are cool. You know what I mean? As is miniature painting. So it's like loving this hobby is for everybody, but you have to know it's a two-pronged attack. The emotional thing you happen and the actual active effort you put into it. You know, and that's everything I stand for, whether you're some crazy wet palette user or this elitist dry palette user, you know, whatever it is.
As we said earlier, like, they're very different things for very different purposes in my mind. And there is crossover, like there is crossover 100% with them, but yeah, I ultimately get good with the tools that you're confident with. I think is one of the most important
things. I get good with all of them.
Yeah.
Like let's say you spend a year using this, and then you go, right, let's spend a year using this. What am I going to learn?
Oh yeah.
So for example, here's a great question. What do I understand about managing consistency in any temperature, and then managing consistency, loading and shaping a brush and applying it to the model? What do I understand about those aspects in crazy subtlety that enables me to use this proficiently in any environment? What is that skill? Because only I really know what that is, and people that also develop that, because it's not quantifiable or definable to somebody who doesn't have that sensitivity. So what is that sensitivity, and what's it like to have that kind of skill, that kind of ability? And I realize this can sound arrogant or elitist to some people, but it's the fact that this is something I can do and I can demonstrate. That's why I bring it along to this. I kind of came expecting that. I come prepared for it, you know, but I come prepared for it in any instance, because I know there are people out there that have a challenge to it. And I think that's great, because I'm always willing to learn. Because I love it. Like I said earlier on, learn it all. I can paint painterly, I can paint freehand, I can paint whatever it is I want to do. And I develop all that through love, develop all that through some hard-earned humility. Do you know what I mean? You know, so I'm open to it all. And you said if you want edits in this, I don't want any edits. You chuck it all in. I've got no. Oh, I nearly went then. but that's how much I mean it. Like it's all valid in my life. I don't have a professional facade to protect. I don't have an ego to. I do have an ego, but I don't have. I'm happy just to enjoy the hobby.
Well, that was a very, very, very wonderful episode, Tommie. I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. I could sit here all day. And you know it, you can feel it, can't you?
It's been good. It's been good vibes.
Thank you again massively for coming all the way down as well.
Part two.
Yeah, we've got to. Yeah, we'll have
and the Patreon next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So check out all of Tommie's links. We'll have the link to your book, of course, in the description down below. Check out all of his wonderful work. Otherwise, if you want to get more conversation with Tommie, we're going to jump over now to the post show, which is a benefit for our patrons. So if you want to get access to extended episodes of this podcast, completely ad-free, check the link in the description for that as well. You'll also get access to a whole bunch of other benefits, including tutorials, PDF, video format, loads of cool stuff. So check that link for that as well. Otherwise, massive thank you for watching this week's episode, and we will see you next week.
So feathering is this weird jargon of something that some people do some ways and some people do other ways, but nobody's really clocked what those differences are. Some people feather because it's feathery, soft like a feather, right? But you see, I've created a blend from thin to opaque.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and this will create a blend as I layer these up with shorter versions.